On September 8, 1988, at Madison Square Garden, Michael Jackson stopped Billie Jean when a heckler challenged him. What happened next silenced 20,000 people. Michael Jackson was in the middle of his iconic moonwalk during Billie Jean when a voice cut through the music like a knife. Not a scream of adoration, not a cry of excitement. Something else entirely. Something that would test the king of pop in ways no rehearsal ever could. It was September 8, 1988, the third night of Michael's Bad World Tour stop at Madison Square Garden. The venue was packed with 20,000 fans who'd paid premium prices to see the biggest star on the planet. Every seat filled, every eye fixed on the stage. The energy was electric, the performance flawless, until it wasn't. Marcus Chen, a 34-year-old failed dancer from Brooklyn, sat in section 112, row F, seat 8. He'd bought the ticket with his last paycheck from his job at a Manhattan dance studio, where he taught beginner classes to kids. But tonight wasn't about admiration. Marcus had been drinking since 6 p.m. 3 whiskeys at the bar across from MSG, another 2 from a flask during the opening act. The alcohol mixed with old resentment, creating something toxic. He watched Michael Jackson command the stage with seemingly effortless perfection, and something inside Marcus broke. Stop. What you're about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about this performance. Michael was executing the moonwalk, that signature move that had defined a generation. His feet gliding backward, while his body leaned forward, defying physics, captivating thousands. The crowd roared, cameras flashed. This was the moment everyone had paid to see. Then, Marcus Chen stood up. "You can't dance without your fancy stage," he screamed, his voice carrying over the music with shocking clarity. "It's all smoke and mirrors." The people around Marcus turned, shocked. Security personnel in the aisles immediately started moving toward him. But the damage was done. The words had reached the stage. Michael Jackson stopped mid-moonwalk. The band continued for 2 more measures before the musical director, confused by Michael's sudden stillness, signaled them to stop. The music died. 20,000 people fell into stunned silence. Michael stood center stage, chest heaving from exertion, the single white glove catching the spotlight. His head turned slowly toward section 112. Nobody in Madison Square Garden had ever seen Michael Jackson stop a performance. Not for technical issues. Not for anything. Thomas Rodriguez, Michael's tour manager standing in the wings, grabbed his radio. "What just happened? Did someone throw something on stage?" "Negative," came the security chief's voice. "Heckler, in 112, male, mid-30s, intoxicated. We're moving to remove him." "Wait," came a different voice on the channel. Michael's voice. He'd grabbed a security radio. "Don't remove him, not yet." Michael walked slowly to the front of the stage, his eyes locked on section 112. The spotlight operator, uncertain what to do, kept a beam on Michael. The silence in MSG was absolute, 20,000 people holding their breath. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael said into his microphone, his voice quiet but amplified throughout the arena. "Someone just suggested that I can't dance without my stage, without my production, without my smoke and mirrors." Marcus Chen stood frozen in his row, suddenly sober enough to realize what he'd done. Security officers flanked him on both sides but hadn't moved to remove him. Everyone was waiting for Michael. Wait. This single moment would define both their lives in ways neither could imagine. Michael reached up and removed his signature sequin jacket. He dropped it on the stage. Then he removed his glove, the famous white glove, and placed it carefully beside the jacket. He stepped out of his specially designed shoes, standing barefoot on the stage. "Turn off the lights," Michael said. "All of them." The lighting director hesitated. "Michael, we can't turn them off." Madison Square Garden plunged into complete darkness. 20,000 people gasped. The only light came from the emergency exit signs, casting an eerie red glow. Turn off the smoke machines. Turn off every effect. Give me one spotlight. Just one. On center stage. Nothing else. Michael Jackson stood in a single white spotlight, barefoot, wearing only his black pants and white t-shirt. No costume. No effects. No production. Just a man and his talent. "Now," Michael said, his voice echoing in the darkness, "I'll show you what I can do without smoke and mirrors." The crowd erupted, but Michael held up his hand for silence. He looked directly at section 112, though in the darkness, only that single spotlight illuminated the stage. "This is for everyone who's ever been told they're not good enough. For everyone who's ever been doubted. For everyone who knows that real talent doesn't need tricks, it needs heart. Hold on. This is where everything changes." Michael began to move. No music. No beat. Just the sound of his bare feet on the wooden stage and his breathing amplified through the microphone. He executed a spin, a freeze, a body roll that seemed to defy anatomy. The precision was inhuman. Every movement sharp, controlled, perfectly timed to a rhythm only he could hear. Then he started creating the beat himself. Clapping. Stomping. His breath becoming percussion. The crowd, understanding what he wanted, began clapping in rhythm. 20,000 people creating the music for Michael Jackson to dance to. What followed was 5 minutes of the most raw, unfiltered dance performance most people in that arena had ever witnessed. Michael Jackson stripped of all production, proving that his talent needed nothing but his body and his passion. He started with isolation, moving his shoulders independently from his torso, his head floating, while his body stayed still. Technical perfection that takes years to master, executed flawlessly in a single spotlight. Then he transitioned into a series of spins, each one faster than the last, stopping on a dime with his body in perfect control. The crowd's clapping intensified, creating a thunderous rhythm that filled the arena. Michael fed off their energy, incorporating their beat into his movement. He dropped into a split, held it, then rose without using his hands. Pure leg strength and core control that made professional dancers in the audience gasp. He executed moves that seemed to break the laws of physics. A lean that should have been impossible without support. A freeze where he balanced his entire body weight on one foot, the other leg extended at a 90-degree angle, holding the position for a full 10 seconds. Every muscle in his body working in perfect harmony. Between movements, Michael's breathing through the microphone created another layer of rhythm. Inhale, exhale, pause, all timed perfectly with his motion. This wasn't just dance. This was a complete performance, where his body became both dancer and musician, creating something that had never been seen before and would never be replicated. Sweat dripped from his face onto the wooden stage, creating small dark spots that caught the spotlight. His white t-shirt clung to his frame, showing every muscle working beneath. This was Michael Jackson raw, vulnerable and more powerful than any produced number could ever be. He ended with a simple move, just a walk across the stage, but the way he moved made it art. Each step deliberate, each gesture meaningful, until he stopped center stage and simply stood there, chest heaving, looking directly at section 112. Marcus Chen, still standing in section 112, felt something break inside him. Not just embarrassment or regret, something deeper. He was watching a master respond to a challenge, not with anger or ego, but with pure, undeniable excellence. This wasn't about Michael Jackson defending himself. This was about an artist showing the world what real talent looked like when stripped to its essence. Tears streamed down Marcus's face. The people around him noticed but said nothing. They understood. Everyone in that arena understood they'd just witnessed something that transcended entertainment. This was art as truth. This was genius proving itself without artifice. When Michael finished, he stood in the spotlight, sweat pouring down his face, breathing hard, and looked directly at section 112 again. "That," he said simply, is what I can do without smoke and mirrors." Madison Square Garden exploded. The ovation lasted 7 minutes. People weren't just clapping, they were crying, screaming, overwhelmed by what they'd just witnessed. This wasn't a rehearsed moment. This was real. This was Michael Jackson proving why he was the king of pop. If you're feeling this moment, hit subscribe. You need to see what happens next. Security started to move toward Marcus Chen again. But Michael's voice stopped them once more. "Bring him to me." Backstage, after the show. The rest of the concert continued. But everyone in MSG knew they'd witnessed something historic. Michael put his costume back on. The production resumed. But the energy had changed. This wasn't just a concert anymore. This was a statement. After the show ended at 11:45 p.m., Marcus Chen was escorted backstage by security. He expected to be banned from future shows, maybe even arrested for disrupting the performance. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The 2 security officers flanking him said nothing during the walk through the backstage corridors, past equipment cases and crew members who stared as they passed. They led him through a maze of concrete hallways, the sounds of the departing crowd growing distant. Marcus's mind raced. What would Michael say? Would he press charges? Would this be the final nail in Marcus's failed career, banned from venues, blacklisted, his name in newspapers as the drunk who heckled the king of pop? Finally, they stopped outside a door marked private. One security officer knocked twice. A voice from inside said, "Send him in." The door opened to reveal a surprisingly modest dressing room. No champagne, no entourage, no celebration. Just Michael Jackson sat on a couch, still in his stage clothes, makeup running from sweat. A single lamp illuminated the space. He looked tired, human, vulnerable in a way that contrasted sharply with the superhuman performance he'd just delivered. "Sit down," Michael said quietly, gesturing to a chair across from him. Marcus sat, hands shaking. The security officers left, closing the door behind them. The silence stretched. Marcus could hear his own breathing, could smell the sweat and stage makeup, could feel the weight of what he'd done pressing down on him. "What's your name?" "Marcus Chen." Michael studied him for a long moment, not with anger, but with something that looked like curiosity. "You've had dance training. I could tell by how you moved when you stood up. Professional training." Marcus looked up, surprised. "Juilliard. Class of '82. And now? I teach kids. Basic steps. Brooklyn studio." "Why did you say what you said, Marcus?" Marcus felt tears coming. Not from fear, but from shame. The alcohol had worn off completely, leaving only clarity and regret. "I auditioned for you. 5 years ago. Thriller video. I made it to the final round and got cut." He took a shaky breath, and suddenly everything poured out. "I grew up in Queens, son of Chinese immigrants who worked 16-hour days at a laundromat. My mother scraped together money for dance classes when I was 8. By 18, I had a scholarship to Juilliard. My parents wept with pride." Marcus's voice cracked. "After college I auditioned for everything. Broadway, music videos, touring companies. Got close dozens of times. Your Thriller audition was the closest I ever came to my dream. Making it to the final round with you watching felt like destiny. Then came the rejection. We're going in a different direction. Generic. Impersonal. Crushing." He looked down at his hands. "My father asked, 'You have degree from Juilliard. Why you not successful?' I've been teaching kids basic box steps in a Brooklyn studio ever since, watching my classmates perform on Broadway while I demonstrate moves to 7-year-olds who don't want to be there. Tonight I was drunk and angry and jealous. Watching your success made me feel like a failure. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Michael was quiet for a long moment, his eyes never leaving Marcus's face. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Not a mocking smile, but something sad and knowing. "You know what nobody tells you about being successful?" Michael said softly. "It doesn't make the rejection stop. It doesn't make the criticism go away. It just means more people are watching when you fail. He leaned forward. I get rejected every day, Marcus. Critics say I'm weird, that I'm too feminine, that I can't sing rock, that I'm only successful because of production tricks. Record executives tell me my ideas won't work. Dancers in my own shows sometimes look at me like I'm from another planet because I hear music differently than they do. Michael's voice carried an exhaustion that had nothing to do with the performance. Being on that stage doesn't make me immune to doubt. It just gives me a bigger platform to fall from. You think I don't see the articles, the jokes, the people waiting for me to fail? But you're Michael Jackson, Marcus whispered. You're the king of pop. I'm a person, Michael corrected gently, who works harder than anyone knows, because I'm terrified that if I stop, if I take even one night off, everyone will realize I'm not special, that I'm just like everyone else, scared and trying to prove I deserve to be here. But the most haunting part was yet to come. Michael was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something Marcus Chen would remember for the rest of his life. I get cut too, Marcus, every day. By critics who say I'm weird. By people who judge me for how I look or talk or live. Being on that stage doesn't make me immune to rejection. It just means more people are watching when it happens. He leaned forward. You challenged me tonight. You know what that did? It reminded me why I dance, not for the smoke and mirrors. Not for the production, for the art, for the proof that talent is real. So thank you. Marcus looked up, confused. Thank you. You gave me a gift tonight. You gave me a chance to strip everything away and show people what's real. That's rare. That's valuable. Michael stood up and extended his hand. You said you teach kids in Brooklyn? Marcus nodded. What if I told you I need someone to teach movement workshops for kids in underprivileged communities? Someone who understands what it's like to be rejected but keeps dancing anyway. Someone who can teach that dance isn't about stages and lights. It's about expression and heart. Over the next hour, Michael outlined an opportunity that would change Marcus's life. A position with Michael's newly forming charitable foundation, teaching dance to kids who couldn't afford formal training. Not just basic steps, but real technique, real artistry, real hope. Marcus left Madison Square Garden at 1:30 a.m. with a job offer, a phone number for Michael's foundation coordinator, and a completely different perspective on what had happened that night. By the next morning, bootleg recordings of Michael's impromptu performance were already circulating among fan communities. The story spread through New York newspapers, then national outlets. Michael Jackson stops concert to answer heckler, delivers career-defining performance, read the headline in the New York Times entertainment section. Music critics who'd been at the show wrote pieces calling it one of the most powerful moments in concert history, not because of the production value, but because of its raw authenticity. Jackson proved that beneath the spectacle, there's an artist of extraordinary depth, wrote Rolling Stone. But nobody expected what would happen next. Marcus Chen worked with Michael's foundation for the next 15 years, eventually opening 3 dance studios in underserved Brooklyn neighborhoods. He never drank again, and he never forgot the night he challenged Michael Jackson and learned that true greatness responds to challenges not with anger but with art. Years later, in a 2005 interview, Marcus said, I went to that concert to tear someone down because I felt small. Michael responded by showing me what real strength looks like. Not ego, not revenge. Just pure, undeniable talent. He didn't just prove me wrong, he showed me a better way to be. Michael rarely spoke about that night publicly, but his choreographer from the Bad Tour, Vincent Patterson, later revealed that Michael kept a recording of that performance in his private collection. He'd watch it sometimes before shows, Vincent said. It reminded him what dancing was really about. Today, the 3 dance studios Marcus founded, named Second Chance Studios, have trained over 2,000 kids from low-income families. Many have gone on to professional dance careers. On the wall of each studio hangs a quote Michael Jackson told Marcus that night, real talent doesn't need smoke and mirrors. It needs heart. The night everything changed, Marcus never expected mercy. He expected consequences, shame, banishment. What he received instead was a lesson in grace that redirected his entire life. Smash that like button if this story moved you, and drop a comment about which part hit you hardest. The lesson from September 8, 1988. At Madison Square Garden remains powerful. True artistry doesn't defend itself with words. It defends itself with excellence. Michael Jackson could have had Marcus thrown out. He could have ignored the challenge. Instead, he stripped away everything and proved, in the most undeniable way possible, that his talent was real. Sometimes the greatest performances aren't the most produced. They're the most honest. And sometimes the people who challenge us give us the opportunity to show the world and ourselves what we're really made of. That's exactly what happened when a failed dancer from Brooklyn challenged the king of pop, and Michael Jackson responded with 5 minutes of pure, unfiltered genius that reminded 20,000 people why talent, heart, and grace will always triumph over criticism and doubt. Share this with someone who's ever been doubted or challenged. Subscribe for more incredible true stories about the moments when artists prove their greatness not through spectacle, but through undeniable skill and human dignity.